Hey everyone, this is Mr. Everything, and to start off 2020, I wanted to revisit the PS3. Now it seems pretty much certain that the PS5 is going to come out probably at the end of the year, probably be announced this year at E3. So I figured before the hype's on that, and the PS4, I mean that's what we've been dealing with for years now, we might as well revisit the PS3 because once the next one comes out, I wouldn't say it'll be retro, but it'll be 2 generations back, as early as 2006. So the model I have here is the 80 gigabyte, and this is the non-backwards compatible. The easiest way to tell is this isn't Chrome, and this doesn't open. And if you can see, there's only 2 USB ports, so that's one way to tell. And you can just see how glossy it is. Everything's reflective on it. This was, I think, if you go by the tag here, it says September 2008. I know it came with the DualShock. It was the first, maybe it might be the first non-backward compatible model. I think there might have been one of the original, if there was like a 40 gigabyte maybe, or maybe it was the 20 gigabyte. But I know that the original 60 and 80 were. This was the replacement, so it came with the DualShock 3. It was the replacement for the 80 gigabyte, but there was no backwards compatibility built in and no virtualization or whatever to do anything. But you could play PS1 games on it. And I've never had any issues with my PS3, so I've bought this used in 2010. It came with the box and everything. It was in really good shape. And again, since I put probably a good bit of time on it, even though I was almost halfway through its the console life cycle or generation, I used it a whole lot. But you can see everything's still pretty clean. There's not much dust in it. It worked fine. So you had that was for the composite cables, the digital audio, 1 HDMI, and then the Ethernet. I did like you had this dedicated power switch, and the power supply is built in, so you just had the one cable coming out for power. See, there's like a warranty seal or something there, but this is where the 2.5-inch hard drive is, and that's what I had replaced with the 7200 RPM hard drive that I think was 500 or 600 gigabytes, and that made a big difference. And it'll never get filled up now because I hardly play it. But I do believe this is where it's at. It's been so long. I've done a video on it because I don't think you had to open the screw. That's why the seal's still here. Maybe this just pops off, but there's just a caddy and it slides out. And I will, if I remember, link that so you can just see how that is done. Another thing I think is cool is how they had all the features on here. And for 2006, especially the Blu-ray, because the Xbox 360 didn't offer it, the Blu-ray DVD, I guess that's just CD, Dolby Digital, DTS, Bluetooth, HDMI. It just kind of seemed fancy when you're some little punk kid, and it's like, wow, this is the big boy, like adult, like high quality rig or something. So it just always felt really expensive, and that's one reason why I still prefer the fat original style over the slim. Because of most PlayStation products, they always come out with slim. And I just the next gen PS3, the next phase of it, I just didn't like that one. It didn't look as nice, even though it was much smaller. Just didn't look near as good or epic, kind of as what this did to me. And on top of that, then the newer PS3 that was kind of back to this form factor, but like half the size. It was just a like rickety piece of crap. So to me, this was just the one to go with, and fortunately it never broke, so I still have it. And then you had this fancy like slot auto loading drive that you just put the disc in and it took it in and bring it back out. And then you had your touch controls, which I think a lot of people actually complained about them, but I prefer them to physical controls. You don't have to worry about a button breaking. Not that I'm rough on my stuff or that would happen, but that's usually what, like the original Xbox One, it was touch sensitive. Then they put a physical button as they cheapen it up. So to me, I like the touch controls. You have your power and one's for disc, I think. And then, yeah, again, just the two USB connections. and then a hard drive and network indicator, because this did have built-in Wi-Fi, which we all take for granted now, of course. And then again, the original models, this flipped up and you had access to compact flash, maybe an SD card, and then a memory stick, of course. And I used to always hope maybe I can just pry it open, but I'm just in my childish nonsense days. But I'm fine with it. I now the 60 gig, which was $1,000, I don't know, like 8-10 years ago, if you got one new or just excellent condition. Now you could probably get one for $100, but they would be so old and used unless you bought a new one. The thermal paste could be bad on it. I don't want to take it apart. And those, I think, had more of a likelihood to overheat due to the extra PS2 chip or board or whatever was going on. So that all that extra stuff in there did give them even more of a likelihood to yellow light. So I have a PS2. I bought one maybe 3 years after I had this, and then I just played my PS2 games on that and didn't have to worry about going backwards compatible. And it would be nice, but I'm just not going to risk it and get rid of this one because this one's been good for all these years. And here is the original DualShock 3 PS3 controller. And you can see it's the 6-axis because it had the, that, which was the dumbest thing in all the games that supported it, where I'd rather just press a button. But they were just sick. That was just their gimmick, I think. Because at first they couldn't call it the DualShock because it didn't have that in it, so I think they just wanted to add that so they could call it the 6-axis. But then when they had the DualShock feature put back in, then it was just both featured. This uses not micro, but mini. That's what everyone always gets confused. This is the fatter looking one, kind of the unwanted stepchild of USB connections that most people don't care for this one. Most of them are mini USB, if not now USB-C. And you had 4 lights, tiny little indicators to let you know what player you were. And I always like that little clear, almost jewel-like PlayStation button to bring up the XMB. And if you can see, this is still in pretty good condition. This is the original one that came with it. And you can see there's a little bit of grime. Maybe if I got a toothpick and really tried to get that out, but it's my own, so it's not as disgusting, I guess, at least for me. Everyone hated these. I wanted to get the kind of snap-on, not the company, but the type of triggers that just kind of clip onto these, I guess would be a better way to put it. But I never did, and I don't use it now, so it doesn't really matter. One thing you'll notice is this kind of, if I can get this, kind of deformed left analog. What was happening here is the rubber had come loose and it was just spinning, and that would kind of, it would kind of impede sometimes some of the motion because this would rotate rather than the stick. So I ended up having to take it off, and this was pretty hard to do. Kind of peel it off without ripping anything. And all I had was Gorilla Glue for some reason back then, although super glue may have dried too quick, so Gorilla Glue expands and it kind of made it a little lumpy, but it worked fine for years then. But you can see this one is a little bit deformed. They're a little more tacky now that they haven't been used and the material is probably starting to degrade. But aside from just wiping it off and compressed air, I mean, it's not all broken. Some people's controllers look like this after 2 days. So I think it's done well for 12 years if I go by the 2008 manufacturing date on it. Test this out. Obviously there's no charge in it, and the battery life's probably about shot, so I'll have to use this as a hard wire. But the big problem with this, it was about 5 feet long, so I have it doubled here, and you can see there's it looks kind of a little bit bigger in this, but it's only 5 feet, so I had to get this USB extension so that way you could actually sit down and not be 3 feet away from it and have a little slack in your cable. And one thing I will give this controller is the battery life, though it's not good. When it was decent 10 years ago, it is actually better than what the PS4 or DualShock 4 controller is. because of the stupid light bar and all the other stuff that must be built into it that drains the battery within like 6 to 8 hours, to where this would probably go more like 8 to 10. Now that it's so short, it probably gets like 1 hour, if that. The last time I used it for a whole hour, probably years ago. But it's still a decent controller, and I remember wanting the digital camo DualShock 3. That was so cool looking. Now that I'm sure you could get them so cheap because it's just almost a retro part now. But I would want a new one, not a used one. I probably won't even bother. But if I ever would want to upgrade this like dying piece of plastic, maybe I would get that digital camo. But it still works. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and power this up. Hopefully everything works. It's been a while. Obviously couldn't start it from the controller because the controller is dead. It's starting to charge now. And isn't that nice? Look how quickly that booted up. So that was, I mean, this is a 7200 RPM, and I would assume what I upgraded to, I would assume the PS4 comes with a 5400 RPM, which makes a significant difference. Obviously, with the SSDs coming out, that shouldn't be a big deal for the new consoles. And okay, that is the current update. That's one thing I'll give Sony, is the difference from the PlayStation 3 to 4. A lot of this is very similar. There's obviously no sense in just sitting here. Although, I think a PS4 update sometimes is only like 150 megabytes. Sometimes it's like 400 if it's a bigger update. At the speed this is going at, I don't think it's going to take that long, but I'll just go ahead and cut it and come back when it's done or in the process. Alright, now just out of curiosity, I believe the, again, as I said, the update process is almost identical to the PS4. So if you never had a PS3, you'll notice, as you can see here, it looks very similar. It takes you kind of this, I actually think the PS4, like when it gets this, it has that same XMB style, and you'll notice it's always like 480p or some like crap resolution even on a 4K output. Like it must be something encoded into the hardware or the BIOS or something that's based off the PS3 system. You can see everything here is moving pretty quick, so again, I'll just show you that, and expect that if you haven't turned your PS3 on in a while, you'll have to update it. And once more, that's demonstrated as that quick boot time, which I really hope will be like that on the PS5. Not sure, again, this is the XMB. We're all used to it. If you've had a PS3, it's never changed, which I like. They stuck with it the whole generation. Guess I'm still signed into my account. Let's try the internet browser out of curiosity. This is a 4K TV, if that matters. Now the PS3 is outputting 1080p, but it is being displayed on 4K, so. Alright, pretty choppy, but I actually did a video, maybe I'll link that as well, of the PSP, I think a few years ago now, over 2. Trying to display web pages, and it was even an older internet browser, whatever encoding or whatever you'd call it is in that, to where this at least can display some more modern type things. Alright, so actually that wasn't bad. I guess it was just that very compacted PlayStation website to follow the images and everything you can see here. And let's try YouTube. Now, yes, they do have that app for the PlayStation, so this is just annoying me, and I don't think too many people are going to use their browsers, but it kind of works, but I don't want to do that anymore. It was frustrating. So let's try the PlayStation Store. Sometimes this needs an update as well, and it does. And you'll remember from these days when you didn't have background download, so you had to sit here and wait for installed apps and games to update. Now, downloading, I think you could do background downloads for certain things, but not for patches and updates like this. But the file sizes were pretty small. Alright, the wait here is getting kind of ridiculous. I don't have the fastest internet in the world, but I'm not sure what the problem is here. I know the store was never that fast, but it shouldn't take this long just to get into it. And evidently the PS3 gets paid by the hour, as we're finally struggling to get in here. And one thing you'll notice is, and it's vintage Sony, is they usually just carry out the same designs, kind of like how the DualShock's hardly changed over the years. You can see here that it's very similar to what's on the PS4, and much like the PS4, the store is very laggy and broken, and I say that because I have the PS4 Pro, and it always, if you view too much, it seems to like overload the RAM or something. It gets real choppy, and then even when you exit, and then your home screen is horribly slow. So you would think Sony would actually try and fix that, but I guess not. So if something can download, so at this point I'm just going to assume that the PS3 store may have been shut down. You can see that the apps load, but it doesn't seem like too much here works, and you get the gist of it, and I don't see why many people would even want to use the PS3 store anyway. If you have a PS4 or just Sony's website, you can also access content like that. So we'll just end this now. Moving forward, I don't see really any more need for the PS3 internet browser. It's pretty loud. The internet browser or anything like that. But what matters is a store. What matters is the games, and it should still be able to play games, so hopefully it works at least on that front. So this was one of the better Madden games at the time. I probably didn't realize it then, but looking back now, I decided I want to revisit this. And look at the customizable options they gave you. You can pick 2 teams that you liked. I don't think I'm a Cowboys fan these days, but I did like T.O. and anywhere he went. And you have this little ring display. I believe I had this also on the Xbox 360, so that's why I'm not very progressed in the PS3 version. Just go with this. The Steelers back when they could actually make the playoffs. This is quite a long load time, because remember, all games were playing off the disc if they were a disc-based game, which most of them were. And you actually had such novel things as the coin toss in these old Madden games. if I can play this through the.
Perfect weather here in the Steel City today as we get ready for the opening kickoff. As the Cleveland Browns take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. From the 6. Little juke. The 30. He steps out of bounds at the 32. The offense will set up shop at the 32. It's 1st and 10. Ball on their own 32. They'll come out the eye. Jamal Lewis gets the call. Smith with the stop. Picks up a handful on the carry. Gets the call. Hanging with the 6 to pick up the first. Showing pass with 5 wide receivers. Snap goes to right. He reels in the ball.
That's one way to recover. The thump will just fall on it and then it jumps into the other arm. These controls are throwing me off a little bit because I'm used to the newer Maddens, but and I noticed Pro is much more challenging. I guess maybe it's not so hard. Wide open. Now in the newer Maddens he would have dropped that, there's no question about it.
Only one man back. They feed it to the halfback. Washington, the stop on the play. They'll come out the eye. Again with the run. Out of the eye formation. Here's the give. Roethlisberger with play action. Inside the 10. Jumps and makes the catch. Miller. Oh, so close to breaking. They're going to hurry things up here. Here's a little run play. He gets it in there. It's a touchdown.
And there you go. Actually had some fun with that. I don't even remember him playing for the Steelers. Maybe that's a lineman or something, 'cause I don't remember that name at all.
Reed comes in for the extra point.
Back in the day when Jeff Reed could kick a field goal too.
That score puts the good guys out in front by 7. Reed comes in to kick
All
off.
right. So I don't know. That wasn't too bad. You can see it works. So I'll try another game and I think I'll wrap it up. Again, just another example of quality soundtracks. Just another cool thing about all the old Madden games. But I'm gonna end this before they sue me into hell. I wish this game would have been remastered. I felt like that was just a missed opportunity that they didn't. Instead of waiting 3 years for like Infinity War, why didn't they just throw it in as a separate game, like for World War II or something, like, or just make that a full AAA release? I think everyone would have been fine with that. Let's see if the multiplayer still works. If it is, it's probably like nothing but all hackers, but I feel like there probably will still be some people, because Modern Warfare, the original, that one's remastered, so people are gonna play that on the new ones. And then a lot of the other ones are backward compatible, but that's on Xbox, so if there's anyone even left. "14 games found." 15. Oh, look, one other person in the world. Actually merged into another lobby, so quite impressive. I didn't have to wait like 10 minutes. They're just about over though. Oh, I forgot that the triggers are switched on PS3. Oh, what a great experience that was. Now, just to some more pointless BS, this map High Rise is actually one of the ones I'm really hoping comes to the new Modern Warfare game. It was kind of an underrated map. Everyone talks about Terminal, or I think there's Afghan. I think that was the cave one. I know there were some other good ones. I just can't think of them right now. But High Rise is one that I really enjoyed. So it would be nice to see that one come back. But I'm not sure if they're doing all the Modern Warfare maps or just the ones from 4. Okay, unfortunately, the last lobby, as soon as we went to start, I got disconnected from the host. That seems to be the theme here. The browser hardly works, which I don't care about. The store doesn't really work. This game's a little bit shoddy, but it's like 11 years old, so I guess that's understandable. This is also a good map, as I mentioned. I think if you want to use the PS3 for offline games, that would be the best case scenario. I mean, who's really going to be playing this thing online still? The fact that they even have the server still up is quite impressive. Making a fool out of myself already. I bet you the graphics look better on the phone, on the camera, from what the viewfinder is, because it's stretched out over 49 inches on this TV. There's a lot of aliasing, jaggies, but it's still playable. And the slow gameplay. I mean, I haven't played this game in years regularly. I might have just played a match or something within the last couple of years, but to play it like on a regular basis, it's probably been at least 7 or 8 years.
Enemy Harriers incoming.
So I'll head back. That guy's the ultimate loser. And you know what? At this point, it just isn't enjoyable. We have to realize that in other non-first world countries, they've been playing this game for the past 12 years. That's all they have. That's why they're so good at it. So that wasn't very enjoyable, but again, that was the online experience. I'm just surprised that there's even servers. So it wasn't the greatest PS3 experience, but if you played a PS2, I don't think you're getting online, if anything. So I can't complain. I mean, everything is still here. And most importantly is just simply the games. And if you have a single player game, offline game, then it's probably still worth it. With Sony, I mean, a lot of their games have been remastered, like Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, and then they have PlayStation Now, which probably isn't worth it, but then they have some of the games you can rebuy them in the store, like Jack or Sly Cooper or whatever those ones are, Spyro, I think, Crash. So if you have a PS3, I definitely say keep it, because it'll never probably be backwards compatible because of the cell processor, which is one of the unique things about the PS3. But I wouldn't exactly say go and buy one. I'm not sure if you even get a used one. Who's to say it'll even work? I mean, I have mine. I don't see myself coming back to play it, but it was a great console, and I have a bunch of games on it. And it's fun. It was definitely a big part of my childhood. And at least it still works, and it's still the original one. That's really all there is to say about it. It's kind of a neutral ground. I really prefer the new consoles now, but coming back was definitely a unique thing. And one of the greatest things about the 7th generation console was simply the games. Who cares about the store and the browser and the no-lifes that are still left in 2020 and Modern Warfare 2 lobby? The games were really good. A lot of memorable games. So if you want to play just strictly the games, then a PS3 still worth it. Otherwise, yeah, I'm looking forward to the PS5. I have a bunch of PS4 games. I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to play it in my childhood and just to revisit a relic, we'll say. But more importantly, just hope you found it entertaining, and it was something I do enjoy. So thanks for watching, and see me in the next one.